Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the fantasy football counselor. In this video, we're talking fantasy football draft strategy, 10 tips to win. And I like to say more like crush your fantasy leagues. This is a universal strategy you can use year in, year out to help you guys dominate your leagues. Make sure you guys stay tuned. It's coming up. Let's get to it. Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, and I got an exciting show here for you. A practical fantasy football 101 how-to episode. Fantasy football draft strategy, 10 tips to crush your leagues or win at fantasy football. Guys, I'm super excited about this show because, again, I've taken years of my experience, my passion, helping hundreds of thousands of people. This will work. It will help you. It's practical if you're new to fantasy football, if you're advanced, if you are in advanced leagues with guys that are veterans. This will help you if you're new, whatever. It doesn't matter, guys. This will help all levels. It's practical. It's gonna help you guys. So I'm gonna dive right into that. Before I do, guys, make sure you guys smash the thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. And leave a comment. I'd like to be super interactive. Is there any other fantasy draft strategy tips that you think are practical that could also help people win? Leave it below. Let's make it interactive. Help people, guys. I created the council. You guys are part of the council. We are lion mentality, and we think outside the box. And that's a whole part of this, guys, for you guys to dominate. It's about outdoing the sheep, okay? Outdoing the casual guy, outdoing the advanced guy, because we think outside the box. So let's just get to this fantasy football draft strategy. Again, you can use this every single year. Now, I'm going to update this eventually. There may be some variances every single year, but this should really, really help you guys year in, year out. All right, first one right here. Number one, load up on running backs. Now, I can really deep dive into this. I give you many, many reasons why you should load up on running backs, but I'm going to simplify it. You need to address this position. You need to address it very early. Now, a lot of people throughout the years, these so-called experts, right, they're saying, hey, go zero RB. No, do not go zero RB. Do the complete opposite. Okay, guys? Do not follow the herd. Go robust RB. What does that mean? It means the first 1, 2, 3 rounds, guys, you want to load up on running backs. Do not be shy loading up on running backs. Now, you got to make sure that that running back is right and is optimal. Now, I did an article on this. If you guys want to deep dive a little bit more into it, I've linked it here below on the YouTube channel. Now, if you're listening on audio, head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com. Under my Fantasy Football 101 section, you can see the article. I've listed it. It's called the Fantasy Football Draft Strategy, 10 Tips to Dominate. Check it out. So let's dive back into loading up on running backs, guys. Listen, you need to address this position. You need a running back. And it's not just load up on any running back. You need a guy that's going to get the volume. You need a running back that is higher on their depth chart, that is going to get the volume and is far superior than the guy behind him. You don't want a guy that's going to get hoarded. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of other pass catching backs come in to your main workhorse and take some of the pass catching opportunities, goal line work, whatever it may be, or vice versa. If you got more of a pass catching RB1 on your team, the bigger guy comes in and takes the load. You want to find those guys that are workhorses, the guys that could do it all. And there's only a handful of those guys each season, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Not a lot of them. So again, you want to address a guy that's going to get a ton of volume, a ton of carries, a ton of goal line work. And ideally, if they can catch the ball in the backfield, that's a bonus. So load up on these guys. Load up on them early. Do not be shy. I'm telling you guys, that is tip number one. While other people are drafting tight ends or quarterbacks early, you are busy drafting and loading up on those running backs because it is a more scarce position to get that optimal running back. Tip number 2 may seem kind of practical, but a lot of people sleep on this. Know and understand your league rules. Now, I see this every single year. I used to do in-person drafts a lot with my friends, my casual friends. Some of the guys were more serious in the league. They'd come in and they'd be like, is this PPR? Like on draft day. How many quarterbacks? What are the league rules? When is the waiver wire? Listen, you got to adapt that lion mentality. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but know your league rules because that's really going to be advantageous. So if you are in a 2-quarterback league, you want to draft 3 quarterbacks. I'll talk about this a little bit later on. You want to know how many positions there are. You want to know when the waiver wires are. You want to know how many roster positions there are, how many bench spots they are, because then you can prepare for your draft and know how many sleepers you could basically draft on your roster when you're looking at fantasy football sleepers. So it's imperative that you know your league rules inside and out. And if you're the commissioner, you're definitely setting these up. If you're not the commissioner, you need to talk to the commissioner before the draft, know the league rules, because that's your fantasy football draft strategy. It's really predicated on knowing the league rules, and then you can start working like that. That was number 2. Number 3, know the average draft positions, the ADPs of all the players before you draft and during the draft. So what do I mean by that, guys? Know the ADPs. So I do a ton of mock drafts before I do my main draft. So I do a ton of mock drafts. So I know and I can anticipate when a player is coming off. Guys, it's very simple. If I'm targeting a specific wide receiver in round 4 and I know I want him, I know that based on the hundreds of mock drafts I've done, that this player comes off in this round. And if I really want him, I make sure I get him so I don't get sniped. Know the landscape. Understand every single year, guys, things change, and you need to know the ADPs of every player, because a majority of the people that don't listen to the Fantasy Football Counselor podcast and aren't here, the sheep, are going to draft based on ADP, and you're going to have that competitive advantage. So if you really want a player, you can get him ahead or after or whenever, right? You need to know the sweet spot of getting that player you really want. So say there's a sleeper you're really high on and you really want him. I really got to get this guy. You could end up getting him a little bit earlier because you know he's going to get sniped at a certain round. He always gets sniped on the 5th round. You might want to get him a little earlier, right? You want to snipe him before another person snipes him, okay? So you got to know your ADPs. That's number 3. Number 4, guys, wait on tight end. I've seen this happen all the time. People waste a draft pick on the tight end. Typically, guys, there's only 3 really viable tight ends that produce on a high level. So what I do is I typically wait on tight end. I get it varies on the talent year by year, but I usually wait till like the 6th, 7th round. I get a viable tight end that's going to give me around 10 points PPR, and I usually talk in PPR terms. I get the tight end, and then I back him up with, let's say, a rookie tight end that's in a position to succeed, that's higher on their depth chart. So I wait on tight end, guys. That's very important, because now you've got a tight end that gives you 10 points guaranteed, and then you got that backup rookie getting later rounds that has that top 3 to 5 tight end upside that's in a good position to succeed. And I talk about this all in my 16-round draft solution. Whenever you're listening to this video, understand, guys, I've created a course, first ever video training. It's not even a fantasy football draft kit. Scrap those. Guys, this is the future of fantasy football analysis. So, guys, head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com and go into programs, and you can get this course. And I help you guys draft the optimal players and make sure your roster is perfect, full of depth, and exciting, and the optimal players each year to draft so you're not guessing, guys. I've done all the homework. Number 5, guys, very important here. Anchor your team with a quarterback. Now, a lot of people, this is a very big mistake that happens. A rookie quarterback comes in or a sophomore quarterback comes in. They have this pinnacle year, right? They're the number 1 quarterback. They put up like 400 points, right? The next year after, everyone drafts this guy early. While we're busy drafting those running backs, these guys waste a pick on a guy that succeeded, had a pinnacle year the year before. Do not invest in those guys. The guys that had amazing years. There's a ton of depth at quarterback. You want to still, though, anchor your team with a quarterback at the right time. So you got to find the sweet spot. So what I like to do is I like to typically get a quarterback in around as early as the 4th, but I don't push it. In around the 5th to 7th round is ideal, as long as I get a quarterback that's going to perform. Now, here's the cool thing about quarterbacks, guys. Not as volatile as the running back and wide receiver position. You can see trends. You know that quarterback has been consistent year in, year out, and you can anchor your team with a quarterback. Here's the other cool thing. In a 1-quarterback league, always get 2 quarterbacks. Always get yourself a backup to cover yourself for injuries, bye weeks, or if somebody decides to hoard quarterbacks. And I keep going back to the story where I was in a 2-quarterback league and some guy hoarded 5 quarterbacks and I couldn't cover my bye week. I was stuck starting 1 quarterback in a 2-quarterback league. Never made that mistake. I always add a backup quarterback. So again, a 2-quarterback league, have 3 quarterbacks, 1 guy on your bench. So again, you want to find that sweet spot and anchor your team with an ace base quarterback, and in later rounds, you can gamble on a rookie with some upside, a guy that could really boom that people are sleeping on. Again, I talk about it in my 16-round draft solution, or make sure you guys smash the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel because you're going to get a massive competitive edge and I think outside the box. Tip number 6, balance your roster with a ton of depth. Now, I know this sounds like common sense, guys, but listen, when I mean ton of depth, going back to what I said about a quarterback, you need a ton of depth. So if you're in a 2 running back league, I usually draft around 5 quarterbacks, okay? Now, you're saying, well, Joe, I don't have enough bench spots. I'm typically in leagues that have 6 to 8 bench spots, and there's tons of ways to add depth, but you definitely need depth at the running back position. You need depth at your quarterback, and you also want to add those skill positions. You need some wide receiver backups. Always add depth. Belt and suspenders is what I teach, and always have a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan, okay? And that goes to number 7. Have a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan. Now, this is universal. Belt and suspenders. It's kind of like adding depth, right? A ton of depth. But this is different because we're talking backup plan for every single thing you do. And that means waiver wire pickup. So if you are doing a waiver wire pickup and you're like, oh, I really like this guy, he broke out. Understand, guys, that you always want to put in 2, 3, or 4 waiver wire requests. So again, guys, backup plan. So I backed myself up. I didn't get the waiver guy I wanted, but hey, I got a backup for that. Okay, always back yourself up no matter what. During your draft, you're going through your draft, and in round 3, let's say you want a specific running back, okay? Let's just say they get sniped. You get sniped earlier. You've done your research, you've looked at ADPs, you've studied everything, but guess what? You get sniped. But guess what? You have a backup plan for a backup plan. You've got 3 or 4 players, and again, I talk about that in 16 rounds. Number 8, be very picky, guys. Use my CUDDY system. When you are drafting a player on your roster, be obsessively picky with who you pick up. I've seen it year in, year out. So many people just draft a player because they know the name, they like the team. Now, guys, that's not a good reason to draft a player. CUDDY system, consistency. Are they consistent? Do they have upside? Now, if you're going upside players, you're not going to get the consistency. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, okay? So consistency, upside, durability, depth, and youth. Are they durable year in, year out, okay? CUDDY, consistency, upside, durability, depth, and youth. Are they young? Do they have upside? And also, when I talk about backup plan, you got to balance your roster. Going back a second, make sure that your roster is balanced. You have a bunch of guys that are consistent, but you also have a bunch of players that have upside that could really boom, okay? So that is tip number 8. Be very picky. Use the CUDDY system. Implement it before you draft. If you want more details on the CUDDY system, guys, it's also linked in the Fantasy Football Draft Strategy. Again, click the article. I lay out the CUDDY system for you in details. I also have a course on that as well on my website under programs, okay? Number 9. Do not overpay for defense and kickers, okay? So many people draft kickers. I just wait, I stream kickers. For defense, I see a lot of leagues straying away from defenses. I hate IDP leagues because there's so much volatility. You could have this optimal roster, and then the guy you're playing against has a cornerback or has a linebacker that goes off, has like 10 sacks or has like 5 interceptions, runs it back, and just screws your whole team. Guys, do not pay too high for defense and kickers. Literally, guys, you can wait, you can stream defenses. Kind of a rule of thumb, I like to get a top 5 defense from last year, but because of the NFL draft, so many things change on a defense based on last year. New linebackers are drafted, new cornerbacks are drafted, new defensive players are drafted quite frequently to improve the defense based on last year. So again, I wait on this position too volatile. And the final tip here, guys, in regards to a fantasy football draft strategy, 10 tips to dominate. Guys, this strategy, guys, is stray away from the consensus rankings. Stay away from the consensus rankings. I'm going to repeat myself. Stray away from what everybody, the mainstream, is doing. That's what I built my brand on, is straying away from the mainstream. That is why I succeed. That is why the Council Nation succeeds. Stray away from what the mainstream is doing. They're going to copy and paste rankings. What does that mean? It means the top finishers from this year, they're going to tell you to draft them again this year in the exact same order, with an exception of an occasional sleeper here and there, or they slide in a rookie. Listen, guys. Stray away from the consensus fantasy football rankings. Do not be a sheep. Be a lion. Adapt the lion mentality, outside the box thinking. And if you want a player, make sure they fit the CUDDY system and just go for that player. If you got to snipe them early and overpay sometimes, if you really believe in a player, you believe in the talent, you believe that they're high on the depth chart, you go ahead and you draft that player, guys. Lion mentality. So guys, those are your 10 tips to dominate fantasy football draft strategy. Use them, implement them, live by them. It's really going to help you. And of course, guys, make sure you guys get my 60-round draft solution. There is a link below for that. Guys, Lion mentality, go crush it. And again, think outside the box. And I will see you guys next video. Make sure you guys are subscribed to dominate your leagues. Thank you for being here.